Hey everyone, finish watching the next episode of Operation Overdrive, Ronny on Empty Part 1. Mr. Hartford has discovered a scarab beetle preserved in an amber crystal. It gives off a jewel signature, for whatever that's worth. Moltor, meanwhile, is working on a Zord with the Fear Cats. Flurious detects them using his gyro technology. The Rangers are preparing for Halloween, but leave to deal with the Fear Cats. Moltor shows up too. The Fear Cats kidnap Ronny for some reason. Moltor kidnaps Will and Sentinel Knight. The Fear Cats tell Moltor they only need the Yellow Ranger, they don't need the Black Ranger, and Sentinel Knight is too powerful to control. Will overhears and doesn't know what to think. The other Rangers get to the mansion. Mr. Hartford tells them he's detected a jewel in Egypt. The Rangers want to go rescue their teammates, but Mr. Hartford tells them that finding the jewel is a priority. Ronny and Will manage to break loose. Ronny gets recaptured. Will calls Hartford and tells him he's going back for her. Will is held up by Flurious and an army of chillers. Norg is there too. Flurious sends him to find the Fear Cats. Will fights past the chillers and bumps into Norg. Norg surrenders himself to Will, but doesn't have any useful information, so Will orders him to sit there. The Fear Cats trap Ronny in a machine that drains her power. Sentinel Knight breaks out, but the Fear Cats turn him evil. The rest of the Rangers get information on the location of the jewel. Mr. Hartford calls them away. As they leave, we see Miratrix was eavesdropping. Moltor takes out his Zord, and the evil Sentinel Knight grows. The Rangers fight back with their Megazords. They're no match, but luckily Mr. Hartford sends out new Zords. Suddenly, he calls the Zords back. They're apparently not finished, and he doesn't want to risk them getting damaged or something. I don't really care. This episode's alright. It doesn't really stand out in any way. It's not an exciting plot. The action isn't any different than usual, and it's not, funny. I think maybe the Halloween setting could have been focused on more. That would help the episode to be more unique. The biggest problem here is a problem with Overdrive as a whole. The villains have no ultimate goal. Why is Moltor willing to work with the Fear Cats? Who cares? They're just a bunch of random bad guys. Moltor could have been working with any other villain and nothing would change. What does Moltor want? What do the Fear Cats want? Camdor, Miratrix, Flurious? What do any of them achieve if they actually do get the Corona Aurora? Here's a weird thing that just bugs me in Overdrive. The Fear Cats, as well as some other villains, they have Zords of their own, but they don't call them Zords. They're just called robots, or giant robots. Not technically wrong, but in the past, if a giant robot showed up, it was usually called a Zord. It's just weird, and I'd like to know if there was, a reason specifically against calling them Zords, or if the writers or whoever just didn't consider them Zords for whatever reason. It's a really bizarre thing when a show has specific terminology that refers to a thing, that thing shows up, and then they don't use that specific terminology. Will suffers insecurity when he overhears the bad guy say they only needed Ronny, not him. It's kinda weird that this information bothers him so much, but it works well enough. It's not far outside his established character to be concerned with how he compares to others. Why is Ronny specifically the one targeted? It seems like anyone with Ranger powers could work just as well for the Fear Cats' plan. Maybe that'll be cleared up next episode. Mr. Hartford sending the Rangers on a mission while Ronny, Will, and Sentinel Knight were being held captive is definitely odd judgment. I thought it would lead to something being up with Mr. Hartford, but nope, it was just poor judgment on his part. Ronny and Will are initially able to escape, but without Sentinel Knight, so even if they had gotten away on their own, the team would still have to go back to get Sentinel Knight. And it's not like they uncover anything important or useful while they're in Egypt. The guy tells them that, the thing is in sand, and Dax points out,
"We need to look for sand in Egypt."
My favorite part of the episode is Norg. At the beginning, he excitedly tells Flurious all about trick-or-treating. He's expecting a large group of trick-or-treaters who always dress like penguins. Later, he talks to Will a little. I love Norg, but unfortunately, he just doesn't get a whole lot to do. I'm wondering if there's any kind of twist the show is building to with him, because if there isn't, I'm kind of confused why he gets such a big part routinely. The Battlefleet Zords make their debut. Yay! I don't know why the season needed so many Zords, and this is an issue that extends to Bokanger. Bokanger, it's slightly more tolerable, as with a longer episode count, the individual Zords see more use, and there's usually more of an actual build-up to them. They're a little bit more relevant to what's going on. Over here, all these Zords just pile up. They could all be destroyed and replaced next episode, and I wouldn't feel a thing, because the audience isn't given any time to appreciate these Zords. They have no personality, all they have is cool looks. Compared to past seasons, we've always had a main Megazord that gets used the most. Then sometimes we get a secondary Megazord. A new Ranger sometimes gets their own unique Zord. It's also confusing, where does Mr. Hartford get the material for all of his Zords? Overdrive is very technology-based, not magic-based or sci-fi-based, so does he have a crew of mechanics working on these, building them? Why don't we ever see any of these characters? That would actually be kind of cool to see, like, if we had a crew of mechanics who routinely worked on the Zords or upkept the Zords or something. The guy the Rangers talked to in Egypt is played by Stephen Butterworth. He's a still active New Zealand actor with quite a few roles. He'll go on to voice Prince Vakar in Super Megaforce. So yeah, not amazing, not awful, just as standard gets, and that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.
They're always dressed like little penguins.